Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Red Zone podcast. My name is Riley Davis, and with me, as always, is my absolutely amazing, perfect, wonderful co-host,
Wow.
Nate Cohen.
Wow. It's been a rough few weeks. I needed that. Thank you.
You're
So
welcome.
see, all my classes, I guess this is a great segue into what have we been up to. All of my classes are giving me a bunch of tests and homework all at once before I go out for break. So
Me
it's like,
too.
but I'm doing pretty okay. Indiana didn't play last week and Alabama's game wasn't televised. So um I went to go see Indiana beat South Carolina in basketball. So
Yeah,
yay. I think
I
South
mean,
Carolina's a better team than you say they are in basketball.
are you saying that because it wasn't as probably a bigger gap than you expected, or are
I
you
thought
just
that's
saying
what I
that?
thought. It was a bigger gap than I thought it would be, looking at how we played the
Really?
first. Okay,
I
so
thought you
as
told me you were
someone,
about to destroy us.
I mean, I said that as being like overconfident, but looking at I think I've been to almost every single one of IU's basketball games this year. Um, they have a few pretty major problems, the IU basketball team, and I thought the first time that they had to play a good team was going to bite them in the ass, and so I thought they were gonna beat South Carolina, but it was going to be like 10. But I mean, hey, they played the most complete game they've played all year, and I don't think South Carolina's a bad team. Like, don't get me wrong, they'll probably make like the NIT or like maybe they'll be like an 11 seed in March Madness. But like there's pieces. You guys have
11's
a
kind
really
of
good shooting
generous.
depth. Like South Carolina was on fire from three, or like at least it felt like they were
Our
for a decent
both
amount
our
of the game.
women's and men's team are like they can pop 3 pointers like it's nothing. It's
Our
crazy.
women's team is bipolar as hell. We lost to Butler
Our
and
women's team is
Harvard.
great.
We lost to Butler and Harvard, and we beat Stanford on Sunday. Like IU women's basketball is just like so far
Well,
this season we beat some nobody, lost to Harvard, lost to Butler, and then beat Stanford like convincingly. So,
dang,
but how have you been?
that looks bad for Stanford.
Yeah.
Stressed, stressed as hell. Um, God, yeah. I also have a bunch of tests before break. I only have one left though. I took two on Monday and one to, and then
Oh, I took one today too.
I also have like, yeah. But also in preparation. Oh yeah, this is a good time to probably mention that I will not be on next week's episode, but it will be Nate and a guest.
You
And
think
um
I need to
we think
contact.
or it's just Nate by himself.
I'm not doing a solo podcast, but in theory, I have an idea of one or maybe two people that I might want to try and get on next week. Um,
So if there's no episode, you know that that didn't work. But if there is, it's going to be Nate and a guest
it's going to
because
be
I'm going
Nate.
to New York on Sunday.
Best case scenario, it's going to be me and two people. Worst case scenario, it's going to be me and my dad, which is
That's
I
not
don't
worst case scenario.
not
Worst
worst
case
case. Best
scenario is
case
just there's
scenario,
no
best
episode.
yeah, best case scenario is me, my dad, and a guest that I think I can maybe get on, and a worst case scenario is we get no episode at all.
Yeah.
Um,
But yeah, that's why I'm stressed is because I'm going to New York on Sunday with the band and I'm not ready for it. So, well, I mean, I will be ready for it, but like at this moment, I haven't packed yet and I need to like grab some stuff, but that's okay. Um, but yeah, that's why I'm stressed and also why I will not be here next week because
no,
I'll be doing uh I don't even know. I'll be
you'll be
doing whatever New
parading.
York things. I'm parading on Thursday, but I'll be doing New York things. So yeah.
Um, and yeah, I hope we get the episode down because next week's gonna be IU versus Ohio State, which is the biggest game Indiana's had since the 1972 Holiday Bowl, which my dad wasn't even alive for, neither was I. So
This is also the game that like that will either like back you up in everything you've been saying about Indiana this year or
make me eat
prove other
crow.
people right. Yeah. Prove
Yeah,
the other people who've been
that's why
doubting
I'm a
you
little
right.
scared about it, is because like obviously, I think there's three scenarios with this game. One, we lose. We get our ass kicked and then everyone's right. 2, we lose, but it's close. And it validates what I say because it showed that we could run with Ohio State for 4 quarters. 3, we win. And then everyone needs to shut up because we'll be
Yeah.
11-0 and more or less a shoe in for the Big Ten championship game unless we like choke it to Purdue. So I think there's 3 scenarios. 2 of them are good. 1 of them are bad of what could come from the game on Saturday. Certainly the biggest game IU's had, maybe ever. Um, and we'll probably talk about that when we get to the rankings. But
I'll be
first,
excited to watch that game.
yeah, I'm not. I'm really nervous. Well, I'm nervous and
I
excited.
mean, having really no like personal stakes in it, I'm like excited. Because like either way it happens, I'm like, I would be a kind of bit. I mean, I've said this before, I think on this podcast, I think, is I don't like cocky fans. No offense to you, Nate. I'm not saying you're cocky, but it
Well,
was
I
like
kind of am.
week 2. I know, because it was like week 2 where you were like, we're winning the natty. So that is kind of
I, I've been
tiniest bit
saying
annoying.
I've been saying that Indiana's going to win the Natty as a joke since we won the first game of the season, and I was like, man, IU's winning the Natty. And we won the second game, and I was like, man, we scored 77 points. IU's winning the Natty. I kept saying it more and more as a joke, but then we kept winning, and then like the more I said it, the more I was like, maybe we win the Natty. So like it transformed from a joke into a wishful thinking, because like the whole thing with IU is they're never going to win the Natty. Like it's IU football. It's like the redheaded bastard stepchild of this university. Like it's a basketball school.
Damn.
It's a basketball school that has a football problem. And it's like so I'm not the only one who said that. There was a bunch of people in the stands and like it became a kind of a running joke among like my friends and like people who I would see in the stands of games. It's like, "Oh yeah, IU's winning the Natty." Cuz it's funny. It's just funny to be like uber confident with a team that's like tradition like historically probably the worst Power 4 conference team outside of like Vanderbilt. Like IU is 1 and
But you
3
see,
and
I can't. I feel like if I make a joke like that, because there's no way in heck I can. Why didn't I already said hell? There's no way in hell. I have confidence in my team, and I think we're doing a lot better than we have in the past, especially in the end of the season. We've been rolling. There's no way in hell that South Carolina is ever winning the national championship. But if I make a joke going, "We're winning the Natty," you would give me so much shit for it,
well yeah,
and
cuz
that's
it's
not a
funny.
lie.
Well yeah, cuz
And
it's
I've just
funny.
been sitting here like, yeah, but like you're Indiana and it might not go that way for you in silence. And I'm like, okay.
Well,
But
of
yeah,
course
that's
Indiana's
why
never going to is cuz it's
I'm genuinely just very interested in how this game's gonna go.
because it's Indiana. Like they don't do anything. Indiana has the worst bowl win percentage of any Power 4 team in the country. They've won 1 bowl game ever and it was in 1972. So it's like I don't know. If we beat Ohio State, we're contenders. We are 100% contenders to the national championship if we beat Ohio
Do you
State.
think they drop you out completely of the rankings if you
I think it
pause? Okay.
depends.
If you get like wiped out by Ohio
I think
State,
they do.
are you out or are
I
you
think
lower?
I think we're either like 11th or we're out, which is really frustrating. Um,
I don't think
but
they'd still put you top 12. I think they would take you out of playoffs,
I think they would
but you'd
too.
still be in the rankings, I think.
Well, of course we're still going to be in the rankings. I think that'd
Well,
be
yeah,
insane to
but
drop an 11-1 Power 4 team out of the rankings.
they wouldn't let you
But
in to be the top 12.
I mean, currently our playoff percentage chance is 97% no matter what happens with the Ohio State game. So it's like no one really knows because I think a lot of it depends on who loses around us. Like if one of those 2-loss SEC teams loses, we'll be in over them. Like they're not going to put a 3-loss SEC team over a 1-loss Indiana. So like say for instance Ole Miss borks one of their last 2 games, Georgia borks it against Tech, Tennessee loses. They probably won't because they play a really cupcake remainder of the schedule, I think. Or like Alabama loses in like a to Oklahoma, or they lose to Auburn, or something happens with one of those four
Well,
two
they
loss
play
SEC
Vandy.
teams. Tennessee plays Vandy,
Yeah, they could.
but I think Vandy's lost all their momentum after that South Carolina game.
That
Um,
was homecoming. I still feel bad about that.
I
He was like
think
halfway through the game and they were like, our homecoming. And I was like, oh,
I think
sorry.
I think they put us in over a three-loss SEC team, but I don't know if they put us in over a two-loss SEC team. So I think if
Probably
we lose
not.
to Ohio State, we're going to need other things to happen around us, which can 100% happen. The SEC has been cannibalizing themselves this entire year, so we'll see.
We're
Um,
doing better.
yeah, but you guys also can't
Well,
make
I
the
think
playoffs as a three-loss team,
that's
and
true.
sadly, you don't play
There's
any
like
of the teams that
the
IU
number
needs
of
you guys to
people,
play.
the number of people who are like this needs to happen, this needs to happen, this needs to happen. It's like a whole list of like we need Texas A&M to beat Texas. We need Vandy. Like it's like a whole bunch of, and it's like this isn't gonna happen, y'all.
But
Yeah.
also, all of this what ifing, we don't need to talk about if Indiana just goes out and does the business on Saturday and beats Ohio State.
Oh yeah, but I'm what ifing if like, because
They lose.
no, if I'm what ifing of like all the things of like we're not gonna do it because they don't like us and they're not gonna put us in, but also we have three losses, but they don't like us and we have three losses. They're not putting us in the playoffs, but it's like
I
the number of like what if of like this needs to happen, this needs to happen. That's what I'm what ifing is
I would
South
push back
Carolina.
on the they don't like you thing. I mean, they did throw you guys up to seven, like what is it, 18th or 17th?
18th.
They put you up to 18th in the rankings as a three-loss team. I think you guys are the highest three-loss ranked team in the country right now. So, I mean, I wouldn't say
Yeah,
they hate you. I mean, aren't you guys ahead of Clemson right now, who has less
no,
losses?
we're not.
Oh, I thought Clemson was 20th.
No, they're
Yeah.
17th.
Okay, well, that makes sense. They have two losses. You guys have three. But like, you guys are still the highest three-loss team. Like ahead of Army, who's I would say is arguably a better team. They're undefeated. So it's like I think I think they're definitely being nice to you guys. And if you guys beat Clemson, I think there's a high possibility that if South Carolina wins out, they could be like 15th in the country, which is I think like the second team out of the
Yeah.
playoffs.
Someone said that like if both Clemson and us like win out, we the Clemson uh Carolina the Palmetto Bowl would be like fighting for a playoff seat. And I was like, that is not true
I think
in
there's
any
one team
way.
In the Palmetto Bowl battling for a playoff spot, and it's Clemson,
Yeah, it's not
sadly.
us.
I mean, where are they? Oh, I thought you were gonna say like, oh,
But also,
they could
pause.
go game day to the Palmetto Bowl, but it's definitely going to
You think
Texas
Army's a
A&M.
better team?
Slightly.
Like,
I
you
think
think
I
if we
like what I
faced
see
Army, they would win?
because they play such a weird style that I don't think South Carolina would do very well with.
Interesting.
Which, by the way, that's not a dig on South Carolina. I don't think any of the major teams would be able to deal with triple option as well as they thought they would. Uh, okay, no, I think South Carolina's slightly better than Army, but like, I think that would be a
But like,
close.
yeah,
That would
I
be a
feel
fun
like,
game if it happened.
yeah, bowl game. No, um,
I could see
we're
it.
projected. Someone said we were projected to go to the Gator Bowl with
Ooh,
Miami.
ugh. Talk about a game no one cares about. First of all, no one cares about the Gator Bowl. Miami would be pissed they're even there in the first place. So no, all their
But
players would
also,
drop.
we're already in the Gator Bowl. We've already been in the Gator Bowl.
I feel like there's like it's like four bowl games that South Carolina always plays in, and it's like the Gator Bowl, the Outback Bowl, like
Duke,
yeah, the Mayo
Mayo.
Bowl, and
We're
like
in Duke's country.
anything in the South region. But
Yeah,
on to
we were permitted to
news.
go to Vegas at one point. Yeah.
Um, First, starting with some, I guess, pretty okay news. Um, Good news attached to a not very good news. The man who was the murderer of three Virginia players in 2022 has pleaded as guilty, which is good. Um, Kind of that still was not great, um, but good that he pleaded guilty. Um, Oregon has clinched a spot in the Big Ten title game, which everyone saw coming. But what is kind of funny with that is they announced it like yesterday, which I don't quite understand why they announced it yesterday instead of like, after all the Big Ten play was done. But apparently they had to get all their scholars to run through and crunch all the numbers of scenarios that could happen this year in the Big Ten. And then they had to decide that there was no way Oregon could finish any less than like second, which,
What to say?
it's kind of stupid, but
I
I don't know why they
remembered
announced it
my
yesterday.
question that I was going to ask you.
What's the question?
This is no longer really relevant. This was more
Oh,
relevant last week, but I thought about it after. when like initially Indiana was set projected to be like when they did the initial bracket of like where everyone would end up, and then Indiana was gonna play Alabama in that bracket.
Are you gonna ask me who I'm cheering for?
No, I'm gonna ask you if like if Alabama, like I know you've been fighting for like Indiana's better than like way people like way more people like give you credit for, and like that if they like if you guys got like pimp slapped in the first round of playoffs, then you could understand what they were saying. But then like if you guys were playing Alabama and got pimp slapped by Alabama, would you be like, well, that's because it's Alabama, or would you be like, yeah, Indiana's maybe not that good, or maybe not, maybe like everyone was slightly right in what they were saying?
I mean, it's a conflict of interest for me, so it's kind of
Yeah,
hard to answer that question.
that's why I was like, this would be an interesting question to
I
ask.
would probably say it was because it was Alabama, but like I know that's not the right way of thinking about that. I think it depends. I think if we make the playoffs, it's kind of hard for people to. I mean, I guess unless we because like if we make the playoffs and get blasted in the first round, it would have been because we either beat Ohio State to make it there or like we played them close. So it's not like we had shown that we can't play well against good teams. We just had something happen. I mean, Notre Dame has consistently gotten blasted every time they've made the college football playoffs for the last like 8 years. So, I mean, I don't know. But yeah. Speaking of Indiana versus Ohio State, Indiana's star center Seth McLaughlin is out for the season with a torn Achilles, which is good for Indiana and good for Mikhail Kamara and Aiden Fisher and mm, and all those pass rushing demons on the IU defensive line, which is IU's D line severely underrated, but they get to the quarterback a lot. So hopefully that'll help. And final bit of funny news is FAU fired Tom Herman and is looking at potentially Ray Rice, which also brings me to a trivia question. Riley,
Oh God.
can you? So all four Owl teams have fired their head coach this
All
year.
four owl teams?
All four teams with their mascot being an owl have fired their head coach. Can you name me, without Googling, who those
No,
four teams are?
no,
Can you
no.
try? Okay.
Owl teams? I don't even think I remember. Wait, pause.
Well, one of them I've already said.
Yeah. No,
So
I literally, okay. I would also like to say before this podcast, I told Nate, I was like, my brain is not there today. I'm not like, this is a week where I'd say number one country in the nation again, because I'm like, I'm not
not
there.
again.
And then he said, well, I have a trivia question for you. And
Well,
yeah, no, I ain't there.
so it's FAU, Kennesaw State, Temple, and Rice.
Temple is the owls.
hmm
Oh, good
Anyway,
job. I forgot about
rankings.
Kennesaw.
Feels nice to not have to care about the AP poll anymore. Um, but out of the big news, the college football playoff rankings, the top five remains unchanged. But some big movers. BYU has dropped 8 spots after a very embarrassing loss to
Kansas.
Kansas. Tennessee drops 4 spots after a loss to Georgia, which makes the two of us eat crow, but we'll get to it. Therefore, means everyone moves up, including Alabama, who moves up 3 spots to
Four new
seventh.
people entered.
Yep, we have four new entries with Illinois in 25th, UNLV in 24th, Iowa State re-entering their rankings again at 22nd, and Arizona State getting their flowers entering at 21st, which I think is very fair given how good Arizona State's been playing this whole year. Cam Skitebo, I think it's Skitebo. The running back is one of the best in the country. They have a solid defense, pretty decent quarterback. And if they were in a conference that wasn't the Big 12, they probably would have been getting a little bit more coverage. But no one really cares about the Big 12 because they've cannibalized themselves this entire year. Um, Also, some big movers: Tulane and Army both go up 5 spots. They'll be playing for the American League, the AAC. They'll be playing for the AAC championship later in the next 2 weeks, which I think that'll be a really fun game. South Carolina moves up 3, so does Clemson to 18th and 17th, as we mentioned before. A&M stays solid at 15th. Missouri stays solid at 23rd, which I don't know how they're still there. but who knows? And then Kansas State drops out of the rankings after a loss to who did Kansas State lose to?
Um,
Um,
Pause.
oh no, we suck at
That's
our job.
Kansas State. It's okay. It's
Oh
fine.
no, we suck at our job. Who'd Kansas State lose to?
Give me 2 seconds. No, not Arkansas. Arizona
They
State.
lost to Arizona State.
That's why Arizona State is right now.
Yep, that makes sense. We do our job there. We do our jobs well here.
I
Um,
said I wasn't at peak capacity and I meant it.
Washington State drops out from 18th after losing to New Mexico, which remember last week when we were like, "Oh man, Washington's 8-1, maybe they could get an at-large bid if everything falls their way." Once again, kind of impossible to pick college football this year because number 19 Louisville drops out of the rankings after losing to Stanford. And number 22, LSU drops out of the rankings after one of the most embarrassing losses I've seen a team have in a long time. As they lost to Florida at Florida. And that's your rankings. Everyone's pissed because Alabama went up 3 spots for beating Mercer. Bama's 4 spots ahead of Tennessee, despite losing to them, with Ole Miss being ahead of Georgia, beating them, and none of it's consistent. Notre Dame's 6th in the country, which everyone's pissed off about. No one likes the fact Indiana's still 5th. Penn State 4th. So everyone's still pissed, but they can go
Unless you're
kick
like a
rocks
Florida
and
fan.
yeah, they can go kick rocks and pound sand and eat pants for all I care. It's the rankings, the most tedious thing. We have been talking about how tedious the playoff rankings are
Yeah,
since
but we
like
still care about it. We can't say that we
2023.
don't.
I know we can't say we don't care about it, but what I'm trying to say is it's tedious as hell. And it was especially tedious last year when we were talking about all the scenarios that could happen in conference championship week, and then everyone got pissed about Florida State not making it in, and then oh my God, turns out that was the right decision. I even heard Florida State lost to the bye week this week, so surprised they even managed to do that. Um, and so rankings are tedious in the great words of my dad. So week
You know it's
12,
not tedious. Oh, yeah.
week 12 is not
Week
tedious.
12.
Yeah. See, we finish each other's sentences.
Except there was overlap.
Week 12 was pretty decent. I had a lot of time to watch these games because Indiana didn't play, and as I said, Alabama wasn't televised this week, and I don't have ESPN Plus, so my Alabama section is going to be very short because all I saw for this game was the highlights. Um, which why are you putting a top 10 team in the country on on SEC Network Plus, which is a thing I can assure you like 5 people have.
I have ESPN Plus.
SEC Network Plus.
Oh, no.
Exactly. Um, but let's get into it. Number 1, Oregon survives the road test at Wisconsin, 16-13. And I want to bring up one thing about this game. I think Dan Lanning's a very good head coach, if not a little too aggressive by dying on his sword. Did you see how this game ended? So Oregon's up 16-13 with I think it's about a minute and a half left at this point. So common knowledge, it's like a 4th and 4. Common knowledge says take the goddamn points and go up by 6 instead of being up by 3. And I mean, I guess you understand not wanting to like have that possibility of a touchdown, but a touchdown beats you anyway. So it doesn't really matter, but it also makes Wisconsin's job easier. So what do? They fake a field goal, which Wisconsin sees coming, and fail because of course they do. And Wisconsin, because they don't have a very good quarterback, immediately throw an interception on the next play and bail Dan Lanning out of his own incompetence. And, if you're playing a team that actually has a quarterback, that's an awful move. And I don't quite understand why they did it. It pissed me off, and I didn't even care about either of these teams because I would at that point just rather go for it. Like, it's a stupid decision, but if you're going to make a stupid decision even stupider, at least, show that you're going for it, because you'd rather trust your offense who, yeah, has been playing very well this game, but at least is one of the best in the country. So put him on the field and trust him to get 4 yards instead of running a hinky dink fake field goal, which doesn't work. Anyway, Oregon's really lucky that they got bailed out of their own incompetence. I think Wisconsin's slightly better than the record suggests, and they've been screwed over by their quarterback being out the whole year. However, that I feel like Oregon probably still should have won this game by a little bit more.
Probably. I thought you were about to say Wisconsin's a little bit better than Oregon, and I was like, dang, that's some ballsy
Number one,
take right there.
number one team in the country, Wisconsin Badgers.
Number
Hey
one
man, I'd
country
be
in the
okay with that.
nation.
Alabama beat them 42-10 this year, so
Make
I
y'all
mean,
look good.
hey, if you can remember, track your mind all the way back to week 3, Bama walked into Camp Randall Stadium and beat the doors off of Wisconsin. So, and then number 2. Do you have anything to say about the?
No, I
Number
had a
2,
game
Ohio
day.
State beats Northwestern 31-7 in Wrigley Field. This game was played. This looked a little nervy for Ohio State for like 2 drives, but then they pulled away, did what they usually
I was
did,
about to
won
say
31-7.
31-7.
Um, you want to who cares it?
Sure, but like really quickly, do you think? Because you said it looked a little nervy for them, yeah, for them in like the first couple minutes. Does that make you feel better about next week, or like,
Yeah.
yeah,
What I saw, obviously they shaped up, but what I saw was Northwestern going on an 8-minute drive where they were able to do whatever they want and then fumbling, which Indiana doesn't do. We have been very good with not turning the ball over this year. So like I saw them be able to chop in really their first 2 drives, Northwestern. They were able to get like chunk yardage and stay on the field and like long drives that end in touchdowns. And Indiana's pretty decent at that. There's been a few times this year where we've been able to do those drives and stay on the field. We had a few of them against UCLA in week 3. Um, Decent amount of them against Washington, like long sustained drives that we were able to stay on the field. I think that's probably going to be one of our keys to victory against Ohio State is making sure that we stay on the field, like get Ohio State's defense tired because Ohio State's defense is probably the best in the country, and if we can just keep them tired, keep them kind of on the back foot, then I think that's probably our path to victory. Obviously, that's easier said than done, and Indiana's been getting into a little bit of trouble with getting on 3rd and longs, which Ohio State will feast. Like they cannot expect to have 3rd and 7s and 3rd and 8s and expect to get them against a defense like Ohio State in Ohio State Stadium, which is like a raucous atmosphere. So they cannot do that and expect to win. But if they play like they did the first 2 drives on defense, I think that gives me confidence. Yeah.
nice.
Texas beats Arkansas 20-10 in a weirdly nervy game for the Longhorns. Um, yeah, Texas they've been
Weird.
odd this year. I don't think they're as good as their ranking says they are.
No, I think 3 is a little generous. Like I don't know, they're just like it's because it's like whoa, Jesus. Anyways, um,
But
I feel like the kind of like what solidified this for me was when like we thought the Georgia Texas game was gonna be like really close and really crazy, and then it wasn't at all.
well, it kind of was
So,
crazy
well, yeah, I mean, like, but I
with all
thought
the
it was
the
gonna
fans
be,
throwing bottles on the field.
yeah, but then I thought it was gonna be a little bit like more neck and neck, but then Georgia doubled Texas's score. So I don't know. I think number 3 is a bit generous when like games that you thought were supposed to be like really neck and neck exciting weren't. But
And I don't even think Texas played very well in this game. Like they only went up by 10 with like 3 minutes left. So that's the thing. Texas offense has been really underwhelming the last few weeks, aside from that game against Florida. Um, and I think it'll be interesting because when they play A&M, that'll be a big test. And if they win that game while kind of playing like crap and getting away with it, like they have a lot this year, It's gonna be really interesting to see who they play in the SEC championship game, because right now it might actually be Alabama. Somehow from the depths, Alabama's risen and now has a path to to the SEC championship game, where they just kind of need a few teams around them to lose, which could happen, um, given how weird the SEC has been this year. But I mean, Alabama's currently sitting fifth in the SEC. They'll probably jump whoever loses the Texas A&M game, and I think they need one team to lose out of the. They need Tennessee to, I think, drop one of their games. I think was the. Hold on. Can you waffle for a bit while I search this up? Because I saw a path of Alabama to the SEC championship game. So talk about waffles.
I don't I don't know. I don't I don't think they would. I'm not gonna lie. This is no offense to you, but I don't know. I mean, Alabama's been kind of shaky this year. I think they like Georgia more than they like you guys. So they would 100% take Georgia over. Not 100%. I'm not going to make a 100% claim of anything, but I feel like they would take Georgia over Alabama. Um, Especially like both of them have two losses right now. Georgia is starting to look better because, as we said, we're going to have to like eat our words that we said last week when they played probably one of the best games of the season. But like, I don't know. I feel like if there's an upset with like whoever wins Texas A&M, I think they'd probably take Georgia. I'm not gonna lie. This is no offense. I don't like Georgia, obviously, from all the
Are you talking about
crap
the
we
SEC
said about them.
championship game or the playoffs?
SEC championship.
Well, it doesn't matter who they want for the SEC championship game. It's
I
the
know,
top
but
two
like you're
teams in the conference.
yeah, but then Georgia's probably gonna jump Texas A&M before y'all.
Nope.
No,
So this is the scenario. Alabama needs to win out and needs Missouri to win one of their games against Mississippi State or Arkansas. And if all of that happens, the Crimson Tide will play the winner of Texas A&M in the SEC championship game on December 7th. No matter what happens with anything with the rest of the season,
nothing with
Bama
Georgia.
Bama holds tiebreaker over Georgia because of the win
That's
earlier this year.
true.
And I don't know how they get put ahead of Tennessee, but that's what this guy on Twitter says.
Yeah, because
It
but
would be based on conference opponent win percentage, and UGA's would be higher if Missouri loses out. It wouldn't be head to head because Georgia has a better head to head than Tennessee. Tennessee has a better head to head than Bama. Bama has a better head to head than UGA. So it's like I think it's just a bunch of BS that would somehow lead to Alabama being the number two team in the
how do
SEC
y'all
if
pass
all of this happens.
Tennessee if
I don't
Tennessee wins
know.
the
I
tiebreaker
have no
against
clue.
y'all?
But we'd both be 6-2 in conference. So there is a possibility where we head towards Texas being so. Say for instance, Texas beats Texas A&M, and everyone else in this little scenario wins out. You get Texas at 7-1, A&M at 6-2, Georgia at 6-2, Tennessee at 6-2, Bama at 6-2, and Ole Miss at 6-2. And I don't know how that puts Bama into the playoffs, but it does it's because opponent win percentage, and Bama would have wins over. I don't know, but
What
that's
is
what the guy
Missouri?
on Twitter said.
That's a very trusted source.
Oh, 100%.
Good Lord. Where is this man getting this? Because, like, how do you jump Tennessee if Tennessee is winning the tiebreaker against y'all? I understand why you could jump Georgia, but then how? But then Tennessee can't jump. Okay.
I
Interesting
mean,
guy on Twitter. Interesting. Because
hey,
Georgia has the
maybe guy on Twitter is right.
interesting. Anyways,
Um, I think
thanks.
the main takeaway with this is that no one has any goddamn clue what's happening in the SEC this year.
Or,
Like,
everyone else loses out and then South Carolina rises above. No, I'm kidding. That would never happen.
South
Anyways,
Carolina wins the SEC, makes the playoffs.
we win the SEC with a 5-3.
Oh my God, it is Bama. I found a like actual trusted source that does standing predictions. If A&M if okay, so the way that it would work, given that
Okay.
A&M beats Auburn, Ole Miss beats Florida, LSU beats Vandy, Missouri beats Mississippi State, Alabama beats Oklahoma, Texas beats Kentucky this week. And then next week in rivalry week, Ole Miss wins, Bama wins, LSU wins, Missouri wins, Texas wins, and Tennessee wins. Because remember, Georgia's done with conference play. They play UMass and Georgia Tech for the rest of the year. So they're done. But if all of that happens, Texas is 1, Bama is 2 because they're above Georgia, Ole Miss, Tennessee, and A&M based on conference opponent win percentage, which would be 0.5 compared to Georgia, who would be like 0.4688. And Tennessee would have a conference win percentage of 0.3594, Ole Miss would have 0.375, and A&M would have 0.4351, 4531, meaning Bama would get in as the second ranked team in the SEC to the SEC championship game to play Texas.
A lot of numbers.
But
I'm
I
not
think
at peak
the main gist of
performance.
this
I
the main
just said
gist of
that.
this is somehow through all of the chaos, Bama could still win the SEC this year.
Do you deserve to?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
100% yeah. We beat Missouri and we beat Georgia, and if we make the SEC championship game and beat Texas, who's
We
going to
didn't
say
beat
anything then?
Tennessee.
Who gives a fuck?
Tennessee fans. Other
Okay,
SEC
well,
fans.
Tennessee fans are stupid. And
Other
plus, the win against
SEC
South
fans.
Carolina is now really good because you guys are ranked. So,
But it wasn't at the time. Plus, you
doesn't
used the
matter.
win.
Doesn't matter.
You
They're not
used the
going to look
win
at the.
against. You
Ow.
used the win against South Carolina. You discredit any type of grounding we had in that game as you guys being ass. So
Oh,
don't
100%.
don't don't
No,
now
it's
use the win against South Carolina as it makes us look good.
but no, 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 no.
No.
I'm not saying that as me, the person. But the fact that South Carolina keeps winning adds to Bama because that ups our conference win opponent percentage.
All right. Who do y'all play next week?
Oklahoma
Oh,
and then
so
Auburn.
y'all will win. Yeah, you're fine. That'd be
Anyway,
crazy. What if Alabama loses to Oklahoma?
I'd kill myself on the spot.
Then there's no SEC
I would
championship.
I would spontaneously combust into flames if we lose to Oklahoma at home. Like, you know the thing like people do in like cartoons where they just like pop into flames? That would be what would be. That's what I would be like if Alabama lost to Oklahoma.
Yes.
Death.
Do we want to move to Penn State Purdue? Because something really funny happened this game.
Oh, I guess we can't. Who cares it? Because yeah, that funny thing did happen.
Because they paint out of bounds like dummies, and it's the
See,
same color as the end
see,
zone.
Purdue love to make fun of IU because they're the smart school compared to us. But like, how do you explain that?
That's okay. For those who do not know what happened, um, I don't know. Morissette, number 8. I don't know how to say this. Wait,
The
Denilon,
nylon.
Denilon. Jesus. Anyway,
I don't know if
Denilon
that's how you
Morissette,
say it, but
Denilon. Anyway, Denilon Morissette caught what would have could have been a touchdown in out of bounds because the out of bounds is painted the exact same color as the end zone.
so he thought he was fine.
And then I think it's really funny that he's walking away celebrating, and then the Penn State player is just like looking at him like, "What are you doing, buddy?"
Um.
Because he's standing right behind the pylon cone, and it's like, okay, well,
Anyway, who cares?
that's hilarious. BYU,
Kansas
Kansas.
pulls the upset on the road against number 6 ranked BYU. And can we
What the
say
heck, BYU?
in a week where a bunch of people where the both of us are going to eat a lot of crow for what we said about Georgia, we predicted BYU exceptionally right.
We
When
said they were overrated, right?
we said I don't think we said they were overrated, but we said they were dancing through raindrops too much and it was going to come back to bite them in the ass.
And it did.
And it did, and they lost to Kansas, and they played like crap. And I didn't watch any of this game because every single one of BYU's games starts at 10:45, and at
They
that point, I'm
lost
doing
to
something else.
Kansas, but they still led with like every rushing, passing, and uh, what you call it?
That's an
Uh,
embarrassing loss for BYU. Actually dropped them out of a first round bye in the playoffs. Somehow
which
now
sucks.
now Boise has that first round bye, and BYU currently, as is projected, has to go play at Ohio State,
They're playing Arizona State next week, and
which is a
Arizona
great
State is
game.
coming off of a big upset, so I feel like
Colorado's going
BYU's
to win the
gonna
Big
have to
12.
yeah.
Colorado's making the playoffs.
The instant sadness. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's okay.
And then Tennessee loses to Georgia 17 to 31. You know what upsets me the most about this game? I found myself cheering for Tennessee. I violated my moral code because of how much I didn't want Georgia to win. And then it didn't even mean anything.
Okay. Happens to the best of us.
Well, let's get
Um,
the good out of the way for Georgia.
I mean, Carson Beck probably has his best game of the season, which is crazy, given that maybe he is the best country in the nation.
Maybe
But
maybe Carson
given
Beck
like
should
how
join
his
the
rest of his
UN.
season has gone, the best country. Yeah.
The UN.
That's crazy. I did not
United
expect
Nations
this
of
to
Beck.
happen.
Oh, I didn't expect it to happen either.
His
I mean,
first
I think
quarter wasn't looking the best
I
for
mean the
him.
first half it was all ten. It wasn't all Tennessee, but it was
They
pretty
were
good for
tied.
Tennessee up at that point. Um, yeah, it's just a lack of offensive sustainability in the second half. And I will say, this isn't the main reason Tennessee lost, but they did not get the rub of the green when it came to the ref thing, which you can complain about if you're a Tennessee fan. I counter with the eat shit because that's what happened to us in the Alabama Tennessee game. Is that didn't get the rub of the green and we had a touchdown that should have counted but didn't because of an awful bogus holding call that didn't get called. So if Tennessee wants to complain about getting screwed by the refs, they should probably have some self awareness. But I think the main issue is their offense couldn't get anything going in the second half. Georgia kind of calculated them pretty pretty easily, and yeah, it was just kind of it was clinical from Georgia in the second half, which is not something we've been able to say about them since they beat Clemson, like in a tight in like a game against another good opponent. It's the first time we've been able to say that Georgia has looked clinical.
No, they've turned it around.
I mean, hey, it's the first time Georgia's played an elimination game like this in a regular season since like 2020. It's like the first
Yeah.
time in the regular season they've been threatened because every time they like the SEC championship game doesn't count last year because that was a SEC championship game, so that has different stakes to it. But it's different when you're in the regular season and you potentially could lose your season. Georgia responded great. They still are on the outside looking in for winning the SEC, but for them, it honestly probably is good that they don't have to play in the SEC championship game, for because they probably don't want three losses. Neither does Alabama. If Alabama ends up making, if any of these two-loss teams end up making the SEC championship game, that could be a kiss of death unless they beat Texas or Texas A&M at that point, because, um,
You lose your playoff spot.
yeah, three-loss team probably doesn't look great. Um, but yeah, this is Georgia's best performance of the season. It was Carson Beck's best performance of the season, probably. Um,
No
yeah,
interceptions.
we annoyingly have to eat crow. Georgia has a pretty easy end to their season. They play UMass and Georgia Tech. Tech's probably
Georgia
the only
Tech may
one,
not be as easy.
but it's at home, so it's a Friday night game
Yeah.
at home, so they probably won't lose.
I forgot it was a
Um,
Friday night game. That's weird. I don't
it's
like that.
a little weird. I don't like it. Um, then Notre Dame beats UVA 35-14. Be my
You're
guest.
going in. Oh. Who cares?
Thank you. Um, oh no. Oh no, my ESPN. Where'd it go?
Okay. Boise played San Jose State and won 42-21. Um, I don't know.
It was
I was
tied at
talking with a
halftime.
friend. Yeah, I was talking with a friend who said that Boise's probably one of the most underrated teams in the playoffs, but I'm like,
I can see that.
maybe.
They
I
do
feel
a
like,
good
well, they're
job of
not.
pulling
Are
away.
they still 13th?
They are ranked
What's now?
12th.
So they as of now they're in the 12 team.
As of
But
now, they have a first round bye.
yeah, which is
So,
good for them.
yeah. Um, SMU. I mean, I think
If
Ashton
they
Genty
pull away
still.
from it, excuse me, what are you saying?
Sorry. I think Ashton Genty still deserves to win the Heisman.
That's fair. I don't know. They had a good groove going in this game, like after the first, like, yeah, it was tied at halftime, but then like they're pretty consistent the rest of the game.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Uh,
good for them.
SMU beats Boston College 38-28. Only thing to kind of say from this game is that it was closer than you would think it would be for a bit margin of the game. Um, I still think SMU is severely underrated as for being a 9-1 team in the ACC, with their only loss being against that BYU team that was ranked sixth in the country last week. So, you know, they'll probably play for the ACC championship game, and that throws a massive wrench into people's plans if they win that. Because currently everyone thinks it's going to be Miami, but with how Miami's been playing against teams that they probably should beat this year, there's a big chance SMU goes in there and plays spoiler. So
I mean, they're currently leading the ACC, so
yeah, they're 6-0 in conference.
yeah.
Um, Texas
Second
A&M,
is Clemson.
Texas A&M beats New Mexico State 38-3. Who cares? And then
The
Arizona State
upset.
beat the doors off of Kansas State, um, winning 24-14, behind a dominant first half performance. And I mean, as we said earlier, I think this Arizona State team is severely underrated.
Yeah, because they're
Um,
well, not the 8-2, but yeah.
8-2. They have a great running back in Cam Skitebo, who not only is good on the ground but can play in the receiving game as well. Their Arizona State is now a game behind Colorado and BYU. So, assuming there's any silliness that goes on there, Arizona State could find themselves maybe deciding they wanted to play spoiler in a Big 12 conference that no one seems to want to win this year. And so, I think their game against BYU is big. If they win that, I think they move ahead of BYU, which
Really.
imagine we get Colorado versus Arizona State for a guaranteed spot in the playoffs.
That would be really interesting. No, I think I said it earlier at the BYU, or I started to say it earlier, talking about BYU. BYU. Oh my God.
BIU, BBU, B, B, uh,
I said that I wasn't
BUI,
all there today, and I was correct. I know my
BUI.
brain.
I got a BY. I got a.
Shh.
What does
Okay,
the B in
anyways.
BYU stand for?
Brigham Young University.
I got Brigham under the influence.
Okay. Anyway, um, I don't know. I think if Arizona State still like uses it, I mean, you got energy coming off of a big upset, so like it could be another one, two in a row. BYU, we've said, has been dodging bullets, and this might be a bullet that they can't dodge for the second week in a row. So
Imagine
that'll
if
be an
BYU
exciting
goes from
game.
being ranked sixth to losing 2 games in a row.
That'd be really funny, actually.
Um, yeah, I think
At
I
least
think
this
no
one will
one,
be against a ranked opponent.
yeah, no one wants to win the Big 12 this year. Um, so it's your guess as good as mine that who wins the Big 12. But it could be this team. Colorado beats the doors off of Utah 49-24. Um, Another just solid game from Colorado. Not like they're playing incredible opponents, but they're doing what IU's doing, which is that they're beating the teams ahead of them, which is what IU does. It's what Colorado does, and I mean, hey, you can't fault them at the moment. The apologies will need to be as loud as the disrespect if Colorado makes the playoffs. Um, and do I like them? No, not particularly, but I can acknowledge that they're playing well this year. They have their feet behind them, a great offense and an okay defense. And Utah's not awful, but they're not great either. Backup quarterback didn't play great. Um,
I feel like the less we hear about Colorado is actually when they start to do better.
Maybe Colorado has been in the public eye, but we've just been choosing to ignore them.
That's true. Well, I mean, because like last year, every freaking week of news was Deion Sanders flaming someone else, or like, yeah,
Yeah. Um, well, I mean, it's not like they have a cupcake schedule coming up. They play at Kansas this week, which no one really knows how Kansas plays because, Kansas is only now flashing the talent they were supposed to have this year a little bit too late. So Kansas is either going to come out how they played early season or late season. If they come out how they played late season, that's going to be a tough test for Colorado. Um, and Oklahoma State has been mid as hell this year, so they should probably win that game. And I would say Colorado's probably a favorite to get one of those spots in the Big 12 championship game at the moment. Um, but speaking of teams that we overhyped for no reason, Washington State loses 35 to 38 to New Mexico. What the
Hell,
hell? I don't even think this game was televised.
there's not a
Like, I don't,
highlight clip for it.
you want to know something funny? New Mexico State's quarterback had 28 carries for 193 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Jesus, oh my
Actually,
gosh.
the game was
Yeah,
on
this.
FS1.
Okay.
But I didn't watch a single second of this because, like, I didn't
It's
think
not
I
what you.
needed to.
Mexico's 5-6, bro, and Washington's 8-2.
Also, it's New Mexico. I don't think like when I'm sitting down watching games, I don't think like I'm not looking at all the things like looking at my multi-view and what to set up, and I'm like, I really need to prioritize watching New Mexico versus Washington State. Like that's the
I
game I
mean,
need to watch. And then of course that's the game that pulls off one of the upsets of the season.
there's another one coming up. Same score, actually.
Yeah. Um. Anyway, Washington State, that was embarrassing. Maybe we shouldn't have given you as much praise. Speaking of teams that had embarrassing losses with praise that we probably shouldn't have given them, Louisville loses to Stanford 38 to 35.
And Stanford has a worse record than New Mexico.
And
So
Stanford's been kind of mid this year.
this is arguably more embarrassing. It's the exact same score, too, 35-38. So,
Stanford has spent the better part of the last like 6 weeks getting their ass kicked by like everyone they play except for Wake Forest. And then they kind of just got out there and beat the doors off of Louisville. Which,
yeah, that I don't know. That's
okay.
crazy. This is another
Louisville,
one of the weeks that like this is like one of the weeks where we're like, yeah, they're like two good games to watch, which we literally only said like two. And now, well, now,
look at all the upsets.
yeah.
Um, Clemson beats Pitt 24 to 20. Man, Clemson was on the ropes in this one. They needed a 50-yard rushing touchdown from
From the
Cade Klubnik
quarterback
with a minute something left in the game. They almost lost to Pitt's backup quarterback,
who did
who,
lead in passing yards.
granted, their backup quarterback's not as bad as everyone thinks he would have been, but I mean it's still their backup quarterback.
Their
Um,
backup quarterback shouldn't be better than Clemson's starting quarterback.
and Pitt's not a bad team, but um, this is probably a little closer than comfort for Clemson.
Makes me feel a little better.
I'm sure you had a field day watching this, looking at the
It
Palmetto
makes me
Bowl coming
feel a
in
little
two
better.
weeks.
Oh yeah, we got tiger burn today, which if you don't know what that is, we make a giant tiger and we
And
burn it.
burn it,
Yeah, and that's
cult.
today. It's so fun.
Why
I
are
had a
you
fun
doing it now? Game's not
because
for another 2 weeks.
next week is Thanksgiving break and no one will be here.
Uh, yeah, this is a weird game from Clemson. I'm pretty sure they have SMU in South Carolina. No, they have the Citadel in South Carolina left on their schedule. Who does SMU? Oh man, SMU plays Virginia and Cal. They're gonna go undefeated, aren't they? They're gonna go undefeated in conference play, aren't they?
SMU, yeah.
Because Virginia's not very good, and neither is Cal. But Clemson gets a tune-up game next week against the Citadel, and then a important game against South Carolina, which has actually turned into being a lot closer than we thought it would be going into this
I'm
year.
so excited. Because beginning of the year I thought we were about to get like our ass kicked, especially because last year it
I think
was at home and we got our ass
you are
kicked.
even on record saying after like week
Yeah.
3, you're like, man, we're gonna get our ass kicked by Clemson.
Yeah, because it's at Clemson. It's at Death Valley. Nothing makes me angrier than
Oh,
Clemson being a bunch of little copycats. Because I'm sorry, the LSU Tigers had their Death Valley and their Tiger mascot first. And then you're gonna go and be the Tigers and call your stadium Death Valley? No! They have that dumb rock. Anyways. It's also because I don't like Clemson, but that's added
no
on.
way.
I know. That's added on to the fact that I don't like them, is that they're unoriginal and they have perhaps one of the ugliest color combos ever.
Damn, tell us how you really feel.
Purple and orange. You're gonna, no, no. No,
Uh,
no. Garnet and black is sick. Like that works. That works as colors.
Crimson
Uh,
and cream's pretty good.
exactly. That's good. What is Indian? Are y'all just like
Crimson
what
and
are y'all?
cream.
Oh, I was sorry. I thought you were saying Alabama.
No,
It's
Indiana's
also
crimson and cream.
Crimson Tide. Alabama's also the Crimson Tide. Like red is like arguably like cool color, but then if you do it with something good, garnet and black is cool. Even like LSU's yellow and purple. Orange and purple? It's like a Halloween. I don't even know. It's bad. Anyways, carry on.
Um,
Speaking of LSU,
yeah, speaking of LSU, they lose 27-16 to Florida, which I mean, we had been saying that like Florida was slightly better than the record said they were.
they weren't at first.
They weren't at first, but the last few weeks we had started to say that. And then they got beat by Texas and we were like, "All right, well, maybe we were wrong." But Florida was kind of dominant this game. I mean, it was tied going into the fourth quarter, but I mean, LSU was even winning at one point. But like this game was back and forth, but uh LSU sucks. They're really bad. Brian Kelly's a clown. Did you see that he called one of his players uncoachable? Newsflash,
Why?
buddy, that's your fucking fault.
Yeah,
Um,
you're the
Brian Kelly
coach.
looks like a thumb and is one of the most unlikable, heinous head coaches in college football right now. Probably only behind like Hugh Freeze. Um, and I love seeing LSU get their just desserts and play like ass. And Alabama, I think, killed them this year, which is really funny because I love it when it's Alabama that does the deed of killing off LSU seasons. And they just played like crap this game. Nothing going offensively. Uh, Garrett Nussmeier got sacked like 5 times. Um, it was bad. Florida didn't even play that well offensively. They weren't even that inspiring, but they didn't need to be inspiring because of how badly LSU played. Man, you are having some all over the place internet right now.
Oh, that was a scary minute right there. My
Yeah,
God.
that's why I picked that up early and just started ranting.
Oh
But
God.
yeah, man, LSU sucks, and Brian Kelly's seat is blazing.
You know who else got destroyed this weekend?
Who?
The Navy.
Oh, I think it's time we give up the
They they
dream.
got they got whooped by
I think that
Tulane.
I think the dream's dead.
35-0.
I think the dream might be dead.
I mean, yeah, we find out this week if
Notre Dame really are the inside
Notre Dame
jobs.
is really out to get us, the Irish.
Irish are coming
Yeah.
fast.
Anyways,
Anyways,
next week, looking
no,
ahead.
no,
Uh,
no, no.
what?
Alabama and South
That was
Carolina games.
25. Oh my God. Yep. Go on. Carry on.
Indiana was on a bye week. Let me rush through Alabama. Why the flip wasn't this game televised? Like, I I,
Is that
I
that
don't know what to
Mercer?
say about this because it wasn't on TV. Bama apparently looked really good. All of our backup quarterbacks looked like we were good, looked like they were good, and that Bama wasn't going to have any issues with them for the coming years. Defense got a we
They
got
were
a
playing their
defensive touchdown.
backups.
Oh yeah, they pulled their backups in like midway through the third quarter. This
That's
game.
why it wasn't televised. If nothing,
Well,
y'all
yeah,
are
they were
literally
playing
just like,
Mercer. No, I
yeah.
understand why it wasn't televised. I just don't like it that it wasn't televised. Also, what was going on?
Why
I want to see my football team play.
but not everyone else.
No, I don't give a hell about anyone else. We're the only team that matters. Um, anyway, Alabama has a path to the SEC championship game somehow now. And yep. Anyway, you want to talk about the South Carolina game?
Oh, this game gave me like 5 heart attacks. Being there was a magical moment, especially when Rocket Sanders ran into for the touchdown in the fourth quarter. Literally everything in the whole building was shaking. We showed up on the seismic, is it the seismograph? I don't even know. We showed up
Richter
on the
scale.
the Richter scale, which is insane because that's how loud everybody was. Because it was a very close game and it was very like, I don't know. Our offense had a great game. Our offense looked great. Lenora Sellers looked great. Threw 5 touchdowns. I mean, proud of him. Our offense looked like really actually good. We had a decent O line. He had good coverage. Um, yeah, I don't know what else to say. Like that, we had a good game offensively. Defensively, um, I don't know why we all of a sudden decided that we don't know how to defend the run game anymore when our defense has kind of carried us the whole season. But other than that, that was what gave me a heart attack was that the amount of run that like Missouri was able to get away with, especially since it was like the same person every time. It was Nate Noel or Noel, I don't know. But
He's really good.
yeah. And I was like I don't know. They would hand it off to him and he would just go through every time. And I was like, "Hey guys, maybe we could cover him better." But that's okay. Um but other than that, whew, what a game. It was it was crazy. I felt very hype after that. Um, that game really like solidified for me what a freaking fantastic atmosphere Williams Brice is because of how loud that stadium got, how it was physically shaking, how we did cause 2 false starts on as well. Missouri was on offense in a row back to back. So that was great. I don't know. It was a great game. It was crazy. I heard that it was loud on TV too. So like, yeah, it was crazy. I was glad I got to be there. It was insane. But yeah, I feel pretty good now about the rest of our season.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is kind of what I said to you before we started recording. Like South Carolina's best season they've had in a bit.
Are
Really have
you are
turned
you
it.
gonna apologize on the podcast?
Oh yeah, I humbly apologize for doubting South Carolina for the better part of this entire year.
I do
I want
too,
to
actually.
know. Both of us apologize.
Wait, hold on. Waffle.
Um, Maybe everyone will apologize to Indiana if we beat Ohio State this week. That would be nice. What are you looking for?
Waffle.
Okay. Um, I think Indiana is going to play pretty decent against Ohio State. I think we're gonna prove that we deserve to belong. Um, at least I hope we do, or I will be very sad. Be a sad, sad man.
Yeah. Anyways, this is what I was looking for because I was so hyped after this game. Let's freak it go, South Carolina. Take it. I mean, we better not lose to Wofford. That'd be so freaking annoying.
Imagine you do
That would
all
be
of this to lose
horrible.
to Wofford.
No, we're not losing to Wofford, but let's take this all the way to Clemson, please. Dear God. We're finishing with our best SEC record since 2017, which just shows the years of like, and we're 5-3. So like, which just shows the years of pain kind of that we've faced. But it's okay. But this has been great.
Yep.
Next
Uh,
week.
Next week. Next week's pretty decent. There's a few good games. Obviously, the big one, Indiana, is at Ohio State. Um,
That's a
Biggest,
like a big game.
big game. Big game. Alabama plays at Oklahoma. Ole Miss plays at Florida, which could be a little bit of a trap game if Ole Miss doesn't prepare correctly for that. Um,
Arizona State BYU.
that's going to be a great game. Penn State at Minnesota could be pretty fun. Colorado at Kansas, but it's not really like they're playing at Kansas because for some reason this game is an Arrowhead. Um, I don't know why, but the game's an Arrowhead. Um, Army at Army Notre Dame in a neutral site because they're playing it at Yankee Stadium for some reason. I hate all these neutral site games, but whatever. And then Texas A&M plays at Auburn. Unless Jordan Hare could be Could be a little funky with that game. We still don't know. And then Iowa State at Utah, which shouldn't be too much of an issue for Iowa State. And yeah, that's your looking forward to next week. As always, Red Zone gauge it up. I thought this was a pretty decent week.
I'm trying to I need to separate my own personal hypeness from the rating. So I need to keep a level head.
Last week came in at an 8.5.
What place was it? Third, fourth?
I think that put it fourth.
Okay.
I would say this was a step below week 11, but like an 8. I'm trying to go back and see what happened in week 11. Week 11 was Michigan, Indiana, Bama, LSU, Georgia, Ole Miss, Miami, Georgia Tech, BYU, Utah, Iowa State, Kansas, Virginia, Pitt, Colorado, Texas Tech, Oklahoma, Missouri.
I would think that's fair. I
Would you put
get
it?
I'm still I
That
just
would
said
put it. That
how
would put
hard
it
in this.
exactly the same as week 1, which I think is fair.
This is the same as week one.
Yeah. Or we could just put it at an 8.5 and tie it with week 11.
Can we put it above week one but below week 11?
So give it an 8.25.
Yeah. We're
Okay.
introducing fourths,
Oh, awesome. Week
quarters.
week 12 comes in fifth on the rankings at an 8.25 out of 10.
Maybe we shouldn't score these anymore and we should just put them on a scale, like one best out of one.
We'll do that at the end of the year.
Okay. Because the scoring is what makes it more complicated.
But Riley, we won't see you until next 2 Tuesdays from now for rivalry week.
My favorite week in college football.
Favorite week of the year. Um, have fun in New York. New
Thank
York.
you. All of
I
you
like
should watch the Thanksgiving Day parade because I will be in it. And I'm not really supposed to say what we're doing and where I am and what shapes we're making and all that, but I am relatively towards the front.
I like saying like bye to you.
Anyways,
I like saying bye to you like we're not just gonna text each other for the next 2 weeks.
no.
But you'll see
Bye.
me
I'll
next
never
week.
talk to you again.
Uh, unless a worst case scenario arises, you'll see me next week for a podcast, whether it be
We will
on
both
like
be here rivalry week.
we assuming if my dad's like not teaching or anything on Tuesday, we'll do the math. But either you won't see me next week, or you will. It'll either be on Tuesday or Wednesday probably, or probably won't come out on Thanksgiving. If crap hits the fan, I'll keep you updated on the. As always, make sure to follow the Red Zone podcast on Instagram, YouTube. Hopefully, we start posting to TikTok. We're
We
gonna start
have a
posting to
Yeah, I
YouTube
was about to say we have
Shorts.
a TikTok.
We're gonna start posting to YouTube Shorts. Try to gain as much buzz around the channel as possible. But make sure you follow us on all platforms. Um, I ain't got anything else to say. Do you?
I ain't either.
I ain't
I'll
either.
miss a week, but
What a shame.
watch the parade.
We're the kings of consistency.
We actually are though
We
this
actually
year.
are this year, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I've been Nate Cohen,
I've been Riley Davis.
and as always, that was the Red Zone Podcast. Screw LSU.